Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. I hope you're having an awesome day wherever you are in the world. So this video is kind of a part 2 of my original basics on how to ride a motorcycle video. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bit of commentary on the way how you would ride out on the street, because the first video is, you know, it's all well and good when you're in a controlled environment and you're able to practice on, you know, an empty road or a quiet road or a car parking area or something like that. But this is going to be a bit of a demonstration on what it's like to ride out on the streets, because it is a slightly different experience to obviously to practicing on a quiet road, you know. So this ride is going to be going through a town, so there's going to be traffic, there's going to be some filtering involved. I'm not going to go into too much detail about filtering, because that's probably going to be a video unto itself, how to filter. But just going to do a bit of general commentary on pulling forward, indicating when you should be looking in your mirrors, when you should be looking over your shoulders, how not to stall, and, you know, all that kind of thing whilst you're on the road, to be able to keep up with traffic. There's a lot of benefits to being on a little bike like this. I'm back on the Ninja 125 as in the part 1 video, which I have linked up in the top corner there for you. But yeah, I don't want this video to be too long. It's literally just going to be a bit of a snippet of riding styles. Obviously everyone's going to have their own riding style, but as long as you can get the basics down, then you shouldn't have any problems. And by the way, this will apply to the vast majority of motorcycles. It doesn't just apply to this 125. So the very first thing you're going to want to do as soon as you get on your motorcycle is trying to stick to speed limits, obviously. So I'm not going to filter for the time being. I'm just going to follow this traffic. This is rush hour traffic. And yeah, it's an absolute pain. You know what? I might just end up filtering anyway, just because I'm impatient, especially with those buses up ahead. No, we seem to be getting through, so it's not too much of a problem. I'll say that I don't really want to get stuck here. For safety, I'm going to move in front of this car here like this. There we go. Remember, you got to look out for number 1. Whatever is the safest thing for you to do, the safest maneuver, the safest practice, that is what you should be doing. It's dangerous when there's lots of other cars about. That's when it becomes most dangerous. I'm going to turn right here. I'm going to go further into the town. So I've looked in my mirror before moving into this filter lane. Now you don't need to look over your shoulder for that one, but I would advise, usually what you would do if you're changing lanes, you want to look in your mirror first, indicate, then look over your shoulder, and then maneuver. That's the right order of doing things. As well as you're sitting at a red light, as I said in the first video, what you are going to want to do is keep the bike in gear. At least this is what they'll teach you. And one of the reasons why is because if you see in your mirror that's getting awfully close to you, or you don't think they're going to be able to stop in time, then it gives you an opportunity just to pull off straight away, and you don't really have to get involved in that if you can help it. Like in this situation here, if I had a car behind me that I thought was going to rear end me, then what I could do is I could either go on the left side of this car or the right hand side of this car and just protect myself. So then this car in front gets the rear ending and not me. But if you find yourself sitting at a red light for a long time, you have quite a heavy clutch, then what you would do at the moment, I've got my right foot on the brake. I'm going to hold on to the front brake, move over, kick it into neutral, then let go of the clutch, and then move back over onto the rear brake. And then you do the exact same process again as you're about to pull off. So as soon as you see the amber light turn, then that is when you're going to do the same process of moving over to the gear foot, put the bike in first gear, then go back onto the rear brake, and then you're ready to pull off. It's especially helpful when you're on a hill. The rear brake will keep the bike from going anywhere. It'll give you an opportunity to get to bite point on the clutch. And again, as mentioned before as well, if you're going to have to move off on a hill, then you're going to want a little bit of gas as well, just to help that bite point along, and so you don't stall the bike and embarrass yourself in front of rush hour traffic. So here we go. So I'm going to move over, hold the front brake, put the bike in gear and pull off. It is a process that will take you some time to get used to, and again, as I mentioned earlier, or as I mentioned in the earlier video, the part 1, is you're probably not going to do that. Like me, the habit that I have now is, as I'm approaching a red light, I'll actually have the bike already in neutral and it's basically coasting along. Now, there's one thing I didn't mention in the first video, is coasting. So engine braking is when you have the clutch out, fully engaged, and the bike slows itself down because it's in gear. But if I speed up a little bit and I pull in the clutch, this is what coasting is. You see that? So I'm slowing down still, but I'm not slowing down all that much. Don't know if you can see that. If I engage the gear and start slowing down, I'll slow down a hell of a lot quicker. Right, now here I am going to filter, so I'm going to look over my shoulder, make sure it's clear, and go around these cars. That's one thing you do want to do when you're filtering, is you want to get off to a good start. So, especially on a little bike like this, try and give yourself that little push off the line. And the way to do that is to give it a little bit of gas before you pull off. So I'll demonstrate here when these lights turn green. Okay, ready? So I'm going to give it gas and I'm going to let go of the clutch. So you see that speedometer go up? I got off to a flying start off the line. Now watch out for this van here, because they're going to pull out, and that's another thing that you have to remember as a beginner, is hazard perception is quite important. I'm going to filter again down here, so I think I can fit. There we go. Got a nice little space here. I'm going to slot myself in here and just wait for the lights to turn. Now another thing you're going to be taught, especially here in the UK, is what's called a lifesaver check. Now what that is before you move off, what you're supposed to do is look over your shoulder. So you look over your shoulder and then you pull off. That same check applies to when you're moving, whilst you're moving and then changing lanes. It also applies to that. And to be honest, a lot of the time it is safer if you are going to do a maneuver just to look over your shoulder before you do it. Just to double check, because there's a lot of blind spots on a motorcycle, more so than what you'd find in a car. Wow, that traffic is long over there. I don't really want to go home that way. So again, I'm going to do a lifesaver check before I move off. I'm getting ready now. Lifesaver check. And move off quickly. Get that gas up there, especially on a 125. Just pull back the throttle, and look at that, I'm already at 40 miles an hour. Completely smoke the rest of the traffic, and this is on a 125 as well. Keep that in mind. These aren't quick bikes by any means, but you can definitely get off to a quick start. A couple of things that you may have noticed there, or a couple of things that you should have noticed there, is I indicated well before I was going to make my right turn there. And also, I'm not using engine braking. As I mentioned in the first video, on a bike like this, you don't have to use engine braking. These disc brakes are plenty powerful enough to slow the bike down on their own. You don't need engine braking. Like, if I decided to pull the clutch in and coast the bike and use the brakes to slow down, no problem with that on a little bike like this. But as mentioned, it is something to keep in mind when you're riding larger bikes. Bikes that are... oh god, bloody drain cover. Bikes that are larger, that have a 1 litre engine, or maybe even a 600, you know? You can get some heavy 600s out there. That's another thing I get used to. Again, mentioning the balance there is, as you are going speed limits in a country, it doesn't matter where it is, you'll find that you're going to be able to lean the bike quite a lot around a bend. And that is a lot of fun. Especially on little bikes like this, light bikes you can just throw around in corners, you know. A lot of fun. Now here's another opportunity to look over my shoulder. I'm going to indicate off, look over my shoulder, indicate, and move off the roundabout. Again, these are things that you'll pick up, especially if you go for your full license. They'll teach you a lot of this stuff, and it'll end up becoming second nature. There you go, I did a bit of engine braking just there. So I pulled in the clutch, gave it a little bit of gas, banged down a gear, and then let go of the clutch. Just to slow the bike down using engine braking. Now here again, I am indicating, I look over my shoulder, and I'm going to move lanes because this is the lane that I want. Now here I can see in the distance that the traffic is moving, so I'm not going to filter. And hopefully this one has given you a bit of an idea of what it's like to ride out on a busy evening after work when everyone's trying to rush home. Yeah, the kind of things that you should be looking out for. When to slow down, when to speed up, how to filter a little bit, when you should indicate, when you should look over your shoulder. You'll find that I'm always looking in my mirrors. In one way or another. Usually if I'm about to pull off, I'll look in my mirrors. I won't necessarily look over my shoulder, as you'll be taught to, but I'll be looking in my mirrors a lot of the time to see what is going on behind me. You'll probably find that riding out on the open road is actually probably going to be easier for you than practicing in a small area, because most of the time you're just going in a straight line, you know. So once you can get past that first gear, get it in bike point, and you're off moving already, you just bang up a few gears and you'll be doing 40 miles an hour and you'll be keeping up with the traffic. So again, there are benefits to practicing on a small area, but when you get on the open road, you'll find that actually you have a lot of room, a lot of space. So here again, I'm going to look over my shoulder before I filter. I'm going to move into this lane 1 here, and I'm going to move in between the cars, going slowly in between the traffic. I can't emphasize that enough. If you go slowly throughout the traffic, it'll give you an opportunity to maneuver if a driver decides to change lanes suddenly, or if they decide to open their door or something like that. Believe me, I've seen that before. It's not funny. I've got this bike completely pinned here just to try and get up to speed. Because that's the thing, you don't want to frustrate drivers behind you either, you know. When you're pulling off after filtering, you want to get off to a quick start so you don't annoy them. There's nothing more infuriating than a slow rider or a scooter rider, 50cc rider or something like that, filtering to the end of the traffic, and then they end up holding up the entire line of traffic behind them just because they can't go quicker, or because they choose not to go quicker, you know. So again, I didn't filter them because I saw that the lights had turned green and I knew that the traffic was going to start moving anyway. When you're filtering, try and filter when the traffic is stationary. You really don't want to be doing it whilst cars are moving. I mean, yeah, you find in a lot of countries, a lot of videos you guys have probably seen, that riders are filtering no matter no matter what the situation, whether it's stationary, cars moving, cars changing lanes, they don't really care. But when the cars are moving, if you decide to filter, then it does add an extra element of danger to filtering. So I would not advise it. I mean, you know, cars changing lanes, for example, obviously cars are going to change lanes. It's going to be a lot more likely for a car to change lanes if they're moving, you know. So it's just another little thing to look out for. Alright guys, that'll do for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.